Now Swami Suhitananda Ji Maharaj, General Secretary Ramakrishna Mission and Ramakrishna Math and Chancellor Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University will deliver the benedictory address. I am happy to present a brief biodata. Swami Suhitananda Ji Maharaj joined the Ramakrishna order in the year 1958. He received Mantra Diksha, spiritual initiation, from Swami Vishuddhananda Ji Maharaj, 8th President of the Ramakrishna order. He received sannyasa vows in 1970 from Swami Vireshwarananda Ji Maharaj, 10th President of the Ramakrishna order. He served as Sevak of Swami Premeshananda Ji Maharaj, a disciple of Holy Mother. He served as the headmaster of higher secondary schools at Rahara and Narendrapur centers and as secretary at Devghar Vidyapith. He was elected as a trustee of the Ramakrishna Math and a member of the governing body of the Ramakrishna Mission in 1995. He was assistant secretary of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission, Belur Math, from May 1997 to May 2012. Swami Suhitananda Ji Maharaj is the General Secretary of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission, Belur Math, since May 2012. Now I request Swami Suhitananda Ji Maharaj to deliver the benedictory address.
Respected Swami Atma Priyananda Ji, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Swami Abhiramananda Ji, the Administrative Head of the faculties at Coimbatore, other respected monks, brahmacharis, and the faculties, students, and the remaining persons who are here to assist this celebration. Undoubtedly, these persons who are on the stage, they deserve special mention. The image just now we have heard from Mrs. Dr. Ravi. It was something, I should say, it was not an address. It was some sort of some elevating discourse. As she has herself mentioned, that I dislike the lecturing methodology. She adopted the same methodology while she was she adopted the alternative methodology while she was lecturing on the address. So this is the thing. We shall have to take the whole audience along with us. Then only there will be a communication. There will be reciprocation. This is the methodology is wanted. In her address, she mentioned three very vital things which I felt from my childhood. The first thing, the curriculum and syllabus. Our system of education is sincerely, it is very much watertight by this curriculum and syllabus. Our students, the young boys and girls, they are not given the freedom to think for themselves. So we shall have to break and we shall have to come out from this, what she has mentioned, the Macaulayan system of education. Second point that also was very good, that means this examination method. This examination method, I personally was talking with her, that while for the last 20 years, I should say, I was searching some alternative methodology. This fear of examination, why our students, why our boys and girls, they should suffer from this trauma of examination. Can we not find out anything original? Can we not think of something by which the examination also can be a pleasure? Because we are doing that sort of things. Actually, we are doing, suppose here is a drama. While there is the students, they are throwing a drama. At that time, what do they do? Everybody, the teacher, the students, the others, helpers, everybody is joyous. Everybody is very much in a very happy mood to throw it. And they are doing the performance. So when this sports, games, drama, all these types of excursion, picnic, if these things can be done, why not this our examination method also should find out some methodology, some way out to present before the students in that way. So, the other point which he mentioned, that I have already mentioned, that means the communication, the teacher, with this lecturing method, it should have some other methodology. So, through today's I especially give special thanks to Atma Priyananda to select her for this purpose. Now, about my own speech, I also had something a little bit originality in my speech. I feel myself blessed to be present in this joyous annual convocation at Coimbatore of the Faculty of Disability Management and Special Education of Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University. Why I consider myself blessed? This convocation is very special in the sense that usually convocations are held at other regular universities to award degrees to students of medical, engineering, management or regular degree courses such as BSc, BCom, etc. Nowadays, professional courses like engineering are very lucrative indeed as they fetch handsome salaries. But in this convocation, we are giving our degrees and diplomas to students who have come forward to serve a special section of society, generally referred to as disabled or more correctly as differently able. Educational needs of these children are different from that of normal children. For a long time, considering them as a burden to the society, we have ignored them. But now, all over the world, a change in this outlook has come. Now, people everywhere have realized that this section of the society also has to be taken along with the rest of society to achieve progress. The question that rises is how to put this wonderful idea into practice. Those who have attended alone understand how difficult and challenging this job is. The off-campus center of Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University at Coimbatore has boldly faced this challenge by starting a variety of courses to train people or for imparting education to special children. Needless to say, this endeavor of Ramakrishna Mission will be successful only to that extent that more and more number of young people come forward to avail this opportunity and dedicate their lives to the service of special children. Today, all of you have successfully completed your course of study and are ready to take up the mantle of service. Hats off to you for your courage and determination. In Sri Ramakrishna's life, there is a very illuminating incident that throws a flood of light on our relationship with the disabled people. I am sure most of you are aware that Sri Ramakrishna served as a priest in the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. In the same temple complex, there is a shrine dedicated to Radha Krishna. Once, the priest of the temple, while carrying the image of the Lord, slipped, and as a result, a leg of the image got damaged. As it is considered inauspicious to worship a broken image, all Pandits who were consulted in the matter decreed that the damaged image must be discarded and in its place a new one must be consecrated. But when Sri Ramakrishna was approached, he proposed a very radical and human solution which was startling to those orthodox pundits. He said that just as we don't put off a relative of ours who has suffered a fracture and bring a new person in his place, but instead arrange for his treatment, similarly, we must repair the image and continue to worship it. Here, in this institution, we are trying to follow the same methodology. Here we train teachers who can educate the disabled children who are otherwise talented and give them scope for leading a normal, dignified life. In our Hindu tradition, there is a story about the sage Ashtavakra. He was so called because his body was deformed at 8 places. As a result, it was an awkward sight to look at him. But he was a real Gyani and a past master in Vedanta. Once, he visited the court of the king Janaka, in which many great scholars, well versed in various branches of knowledge, were present. Seeing his crippled body, his distorted movement, the whole court burst into laughter. Ashtavakra naturally got offended at this treatment and told the king that he was surrounded by fools in the court. When asked for explanation, he said that only fools laugh at seeing the external body of a person without understanding the true worth of him. Hearing this, all those assembled in the court were brought to their senses. He then gave a profound discourse on Vedanta to the king. A similar thing is happening here. Persons with physical disabilities are being given training in such a way that their hidden talents and capacities get gradually manifested. In Chandogya Upanishad, we come across an excellent dialogue between King Janashruti and sage Roika. Janashruti was renowned all over the land for his generosity, as he had done innumerable meritorious acts. Once a group of celestial saints assumed the form of swans and came near Janashruti, who was resting on the roof of his palace. These swans started talking to each other in Janashruti's hearing. One of the swans said that though Janashruti is well known for his good qualities, he was still nothing when compared to the sage Roika, who had many excellent qualities in abundance. Hearing this, Janashruti was quite taken aback and ordered his men to find out who was that Roika who excelled him. Later, he came to know that Roika was a humble cart puller suffering from a loathsome skin disease and hence thrown out of the village. Anyhow, Janashruti came to him and heard from his lips profound truths of Upanishads. Roika's name has thus found a permanent place in the Upanishads. So here again we find that physically deformity is in no way obstructs the growth of real personality. You might have heard of Arunima Sinha. Her age is now only 30 years old girl, whose one leg had to be amputated because of an unfortunate incident that happened some years back when she was traveling in a train. But with her indomitable zeal and courage, she climbed Mount Everest, becoming the first woman to achieve that feat with an artificial leg. Reaching the peak of Mount Everest, she has placed the pictures of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharda and Swami Vivekananda there. Through these stories and real life happenings, the point that comes clear is that immense possibilities are lying hidden inside even the so-called disabled people. What we need are good teachers who can tap those possibilities and help them to come up in life. There can be no doubt that any person who helps those neglected and helpless people in this regard will receive special blessings from God. A new trend in the system, I'm almost going to talk almost in the same line as my predecessor speaker has told. A new trend in the system of university education that is gaining momentum, especially in Western countries and Japan, is worthy to be mentioned here. It is about making the university education accessible to those common people who are generally referred to as unskilled manual workers. In other words, it is socialization of education. Of course, open universities through their distance education programs are also working in that direction. However, these open universities are still groping in dark to find out ways to effectively reach to the common people, as if our universities were staying in some ivory towers. What is taught there has little relevance to the life of a common man toiling from dawn to dusk to eke out a living. In many cities of India, we come across skyscrapers, high-rises buildings. Behind these tall buildings is the workmanship of masons, brick suppliers, bar vendors, who are working wonders. The city people utilize the services of these laborers, but you ask these working men about their qualification, maybe someone has studied up to class 5 or class 8. Perhaps many would not have got a chance to study even that much. Then how could they gain proficiency in their profession? If you inquire, they will say that they learned it from their father or uncle. Similarly, at every crossroad, you find automobile service stations. So many mechanics work in those shops to serve customers. If you ask them how they learned automobile repairing, they will reply that they learn it by watching others working. Millions of hectares of land are being cultivated in our country by so many farmers. How many of them have obtained a degree in agriculture? It is the force of circumstances that has made them learn these trades. If all these people without any education are able to do all this, then think what they can accomplish if they are given proper education and training. Here comes the role of universities. A system must be introduced where students studying in universities must give training to all these laborers and workers with them and work with them for some time. This way, both the parties will surely benefit. This is one method through which we can bring university education to grassroots level of the society. I have another suggestion. Most places in India are filled with squalor because the civic sense of keeping their neighborhood and public places clean is markedly absent in India. Can our university do some research and design a course that will help to keep our country clean? I would like to share with you how the Tulane University in America has achieved this. It has integrated public service into its undergraduate core curriculum throughout all 4 years. The students of that university built a large number of homes for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. In this way, a sense of duty towards the society is inculcated in students. Though in our country also the government launched National Service Scheme NSS long back in 1969 to encourage university students to take active part in public service activities, the program is yet to make a significant impact on society. Let me conclude my few words with a quotation from Swamiji. The education which does not help the common mass of people to equip themselves for the struggle for life, which does not bring out strength of character, a spirit of philanthropy, the courage of a lion, is it worth the name? Real education is that which enables one to stand on one's own leg. I heartily congratulate all the students who are going to receive their degrees and diplomas today. I wish you all the best of your career. May you all dedicate your lives to the service of these disadvantaged people. May God bless you. Thank you.